Would you rather have $1 or $5 for this tomato? Well, your answer all depends on why you're growing the tomato in the first place. When it comes to growing tomatoes for seed versus tomatoes for production, the question always comes up, what's the big difference? And since here on the farm we grow tomatoes for seed, I thought I could speak directly to this question because I know, probably better than most, what goes into saving tomato seeds and saving seeds in general. And I've also taken tomatoes to market. I've done farmers markets probably 4 or 5 years that I've grown tomatoes on a large scale. And when it comes to saving tomatoes for seed versus taking tomatoes to market, there's quite a stark difference in both decisions. And obviously, the next question that is on everybody's mind is, which one's better? And I'm gonna save that answer for the very end, so you have to watch this video, hopefully learn something, hopefully see a side of growing tomatoes that a lot of people forget about or don't even realize exists. And it's a side of growing tomatoes that is part of our everyday lives. So I kind of thought I'd give you a glimpse into what that is like. The first huge difference when it comes to growing tomatoes for seed production versus taking to market is the fact that I'm really looking at fast turnaround. You'll notice these plants don't look the greatest, partly because it's the end of the season, but also partly because we don't really care that these plants are the world's healthiest plants for the longest duration of time. Sure, we want them to be healthy until they put fruit on, but once they start to set fruit, once the fruit starts to ripen up, we're totally fine with the plant basically kind of keeling over, because the thing is that we want fast production because efficiency is everything when it comes to seed production. It is a very time-consuming process. Growing tomatoes for market, I want to keep my plants as healthy as possible for as long as possible, because I'm not growing them for one harvest. I'm growing them for hopefully 5, 6, or 7 harvests. Every harvest that I get from these plants takes exponentially longer. I mean, just worlds longer. They both start the same. They both start in early April or so when we start our seeds, maybe late March. At that point, they still start the same by moving them out into the field around the same time, which is usually around like early May, mid-May. And then that's kind of where some things might change. You know, if you're growing tomatoes on a large scale, you might still use Florida weave. That's a pretty popular method for growing tomatoes for market. But that's where we have to grow tomatoes. That's a big tomato. We grow tomatoes basically as close as possible, and we really focus on ensuring that we have as many plants in a given space as possible. So Florida weave is our staking method of choice. It's either that or no staking at all, which a couple of our tomatoes, we've gone that route because they're a small determinate bush style tomato, and they're gonna produce all their tomatoes, they're all gonna die, and that's fine. The tomatoes are gonna be all ripened at the same time. And so we don't stake any other way. It's Florida weave or nothing. Now, they further divert with the way that the tomatoes are harvested. Now, a lot of these tomatoes, you'll notice, have a tinge of green to them. They do have a tinge of green, and that's because we have a frost coming. And because we have a frost coming, I gotta pull these off, because if they don't, we're gonna lose them all. These were our fall planted tomatoes, and we've already gotten 3 harvests from these plants, so I'm not upset by that whatsoever. But we've got to get them off the plant because there's a frost coming. But aside from that, we want to typically leave our tomatoes on the vine as long as humanly possible, till they're basically rotting on the vine. I have a couple examples that I'll show you over there that the tomatoes are basically mush. And the reason why is because we want the most viable seeds possible. In the end, we'll sort out the inviable and viable seeds. They'll just get washed away. The seeds that wouldn't sprout normally, they'll get washed away through the cleaning process. But when you're harvesting for market, a lot of times you're going to harvest tomatoes that look like this because you want them to have a little bit of firmness to them. You want them to have a little bit longer shelf life. And even though all the flavor is developed in here, it doesn't have full color yet. And that's because it's going to give you an extra 2 or 3, maybe even 4 days to get this tomato sold, so that it's not soft and mushy at market, because no one wants a soft, mushy tomato at market. That's going to be perceived as overripe. And so often when we were growing tomatoes for market, we would harvest tomatoes that were like this, basically fully ripened, about 75, 80% ripened, and take this to market. Now, that's a big difference, because we typically, for seed production, we let the tomatoes basically rot right on the plant. So I'm here with the silvery fir tree tomato. This is another one we're saving seeds from. And this is what I was talking about. These were a determinant. So these all ripen at the same time. We let the plant completely die. It looks absolutely horrible, but it allows the tomatoes to just kind of sit on the vine as long as possible and finish ripening. And what you'll notice, I mean, these are so squishy. I mean, I would never eat this normally. There's lots of tomatoes that look like this where it's already completely soft, but the seeds inside are gonna be perfect and viable, because ultimately what we're doing is we're just crushing them down and we're taking the seeds out. We don't care what the tomato actually looks like. Would you eat this? No, you wouldn't. But the seeds inside are what's valuable to me, because the seeds inside are actually far more valuable than the tomato itself. You see, if I took this tomato to market, another key difference here is if I took this tomato to market, I'd get maybe 50 cents for it, maybe $1, depending on which market. In our area, a lot of people, they freak out when they hear our prices and they say, well, by me, this tomato would be $4. It might be. In our area, we have a lot of very rural areas. We only have a few farmers markets in our area. Our largest one is still probably smaller than you'd expect. It's really small. There might only be about 30 or 40 vendors that go to that farmer's market. And the amount of actual farmers there are even less. So it's not like Chicago or New York or LA or maybe Portland, Oregon, where there's a lot of highly affluent, a lot of disposable income, awareness about fresh local food, stuff like that. Our farmers markets are just far smaller. And so I might be able to get 50 cents for this tomato. In an ideal world, maybe 75 cents, right? You'd be shocked to find out that the seeds in this tomato, because of the variety that it is actually worth probably more like $6 to $7. This tomato right here is all day long a $6 to $7 tomato for me. And that's because this variety, silvery fir tree, is highly desirable. It is also highly desirable to the wasps coming in, because it's the end of the season and they're looking for the sugary, rotten tomatoes. So, hey buddy, hi. So when I look at these tomatoes here, this is gross cost. So don't think of us as like daddy big bucks here rolling in the money. There's so much expense that comes with these tomatoes that absolutely justifies the price. I mean, we have to start the seeds, we have to grow the seeds, we have to transplant them, we have to keep them heated in a heated greenhouse. That's propane cost, that is labor, watered, fertilized, transplanted out, staked, pruned, maintained, kept healthy, then harvested, then fermented, then cleaned, then packed. It is a whole process, but you can't get these silvery fir tree tomatoes just about anywhere. And if we were to buy them for our seed shop, the cost for these runs us around $400 an ounce. $400 an ounce to have someone else, one of our other farmers, grow it for us. And that's again, just because it's not that, it's an amazing tomato. It's just not everyone grows it. And so I can get $5, $10, maybe like $12, a smaller tomato there, maybe like $3, $15, let's say 20 bucks, okay? 20 bucks. Now granted, once this row is all harvested, I may have about $2,000 in tomatoes here. Would I have $2,000 worth of tomatoes to take them to market? Absolutely not. But it comes down to your willingness to do all the other work, to grow something that is highly desirable, to grow something that maybe a lot of other people would scoff at or pass up. It's not, this variety is not for everybody. It's not your generic beefsteak. It's not your generic Roma. It's not your generic slicing or canning tomato. It's a very unique heirloom variety. And so there's a market for this. There is absolutely a market, and we've built that market out over the past 16 years of selling seeds and doing business with a lot of you. A lot of you like to grow these amazing, unique, awesome heirlooms. And so there's a market there. But to say that they are just a $1 tomato would be, flat out wrong. Now, here's another, we'll end up flat out wrong. And that brings up a very key point that I think is worth making. And that's that a lot of people that grow tomatoes for sale are not interested in growing tomatoes for production because of the varieties that they have to grow. I mean, this variety here, Federally, which is what I'm picking right now. Federally is a phenomenal tomato. I don't know why it's not everybody's favorite tomato. It's absolutely incredible. It's productive as all get out. It's just an amazing paste tomato beyond belief. I mean, it's just phenomenal. It's one of my favorites. But is it aroma? No, it's not. And if I took this to market, if I took this tomato to market and someone walked up to me, I hate to say it, but it's true, in our area, I'm not knocking our area by saying this, so please don't take this the wrong way, they would say, do you have any aromas? And I'd say, well, this is better than aroma. This is like, it's sweeter, it's bigger, it's meatier. No thanks, I'm just looking for aromas. I don't wanna say that that's like the truth, but that's kind of how it is. And so if my interest is growing tomatoes for market, and I like to build out my clientele, and I like to, just basically harvest and be done and wash my hands of the process, I'm not gonna be growing Federally. I'm not gonna be growing Federally. It's by far a far superior tomato by all accounts. And if our market was different, if I was growing in Chicago or New York or LA or Portland, Oregon, or, just more, I guess, more affluent areas that have more knowledge about these varieties, I might grow Federally for market. But most places are not those places. And most places, I think, are like here, where people just want a generic thing. They want the most basic thing because it's the old school way of doing things. And that is a very real reality that, these varieties here, you're not gonna grow. You're either growing for seed and you're gonna grow a weird variety, or you're gonna grow for production and you're gonna grow a very generic variety. That's kind of how it always is. It's how it always has been. And so that's a big thing. And finally, a lot of people, they say to themselves, I don't want to go through the work. And to that, I would agree. It is far easier to simply grow the tomato, harvest the tomato, and wash your hands of it. Look at this one. Oh my gosh, I can't believe, that is huge. That is absolutely massive. If you don't grow Federally, please try it. It is absolutely amazing. I cannot believe how massive these are. They are huge this year. And so all that is to say that there's a lot of people that just want to grow the tomato, they want to harvest the tomato, and they want to take it to market, and they want to wash their hands of it really quickly. It is a far faster turnaround process. So, in the amount of time that it takes me to grow this one tomato, harvest it, process the seeds from it, the whole process, start to finish, you probably already could have sold 5 or 6 tomatoes. Absolutely. So does it even out in the end? It kind of can, because the turnaround time. Once I harvest this tomato, I can go ahead and sell it to you right away. Give me my $1, I'll give you your tomato. Done. Go back to the farm, rinse, repeat. However, for us, we come out, we harvest, we crush the tomatoes down. We wait all season for them to over-ripen, by the way. Crush them down, save the seeds. We have to let the seeds ferment, which takes 4 to 5 days. Then we have to rinse the seed out. Then we have to dry the seed, which can take a week to a week and a half. Then we have to crumble and crush the seed to get it all separated. That takes another couple days. And then we still have to package the seed, and we have to have a market for that seed. You can get a ton of seed, but what do you do with it? And that's really where the final distinction comes in, and that's that you can't just get seed from anywhere and anyone. Because in order to save seeds like this, you also have to bag your blossoms. Now, what we do is in the beginning of the season, when they're all starting to blossom, these blossoms don't matter because they're not going to form any seeds anyways. But all these tomatoes down here, they were all bagged. And what we do is we take organza bags, we wrap organza bags around the blossoms as they're forming to prevent them from getting cross-pollinated with other tomatoes in the plot. And as they start to form tomatoes, we come through, we pull them all off. That is an additional process. Now you could separate them by distance, have them all very distanced out by about 50 to 100 feet per variety, and that's absolutely fine as well. But if you're just growing for production, you can throw the tomatoes anywhere and you don't really care about cross-pollination. You don't care about really anything for that matter other than production, and it's rinse and repeat. And so it's a tremendous amount of work to get seed, and that lends credence to why it is as expensive as it is. And so in the end, there's two questions to ask. Is it worth it? Undeniably, for me and our mission of preserving heirlooms, it is worth it. It is very expensive. To produce enough seed to sell 1,000 packets of seed will cost us probably right around $750 to $1,000 to produce 1,000 packets of seed. Our cost is about 75 cents to $1 a pack for these really rare varieties. And that's us growing it ourselves. And so I guess that just leaves us with those two questions we started the episode with, which is it worth it? And which one do I think is better? So is it worth it? For me, undeniably, yes, it is worth saving tomato seeds because part of our mission of preserving heirlooms and their unique stories, their traits, their biodiversity, if it's not on us, who is it on to do that? Heirlooms have been replaced at a record rate by the commercialization of the farm since the 50s. And we're losing heirlooms faster and faster every year, especially with hybridization and just people not having an appreciation for the past. I think just culturally, we need to realize that when something is gone, it is actually gone. And we need to be aware of that and not so okay with being such a highly disposable society where it's just, oh, it's okay, it's gone, I'll just get a new one. Because a big reason why we go through the effort and the cost of these varieties is because it's so important to our mission of saving heirlooms. So yes, on that regard, yes, it is worth it. Is it worth it financially? That's to be debated. To do this row of tomatoes, there's only about 26 tomato plants here for this federally variety. For the amount of seed we're going to get off of this variety, we're only going to get about 2.5 to 3 ounces of seed. That will cost us around $750. And I think that's a very difficult reality for some people to swallow. 3 ounces of seed will only pack us about 1,000 packets, about 2.5 ounces will pack about 1,000 packets. So that's 1,000 packets that cost us about $750. And those packets at $2 a pack is going to be about $1,500. That is before the cost of the packet. That's before the the transaction fees. That's before taxes. That's before anyone gets paid on the shipping and fulfillment team, the customer service team. For a business sense, if I was just growing the seed and I just could hand it off to somebody, might be even better. But from a full circle perspective, financially, it's a tough sell. It's a real tough sell when it costs that much to produce. Now, I want to talk about which one is better though. Which one is better? Growing seed for production or growing fruit for production? The answer to that is it's really based up to you. I cannot make that call. I certainly wouldn't want to make that call for anybody. I see merit in both because if I'm growing this amazing variety, I want people to experience this amazing variety. If I'm growing this amazing variety, I want to get this variety out. I want people to realize how amazing it actually is. And if I'm saving seeds from it, I can't do that. I also see the merit in harvesting it, selling it, going on vacation, sitting on some sandy beach, drinking a Mai Tai. No farmer is doing that. My whole family's farmers, no one is drinking Mai Tais on the beach. It's work all the time. But I'm saying in terms of harvest and sell and be done, you get my point. I'm just joking. But in terms of harvesting it for seed, it can be very rewarding. It can be absolutely rewarding if there's a market for it. I mean, this bucket of tomatoes I've got here, it's half full. I've got about a half row left to pick. It's our third harvest, so we're just getting to the tail end. This bucket right here probably has about $150 in seed in it. You're not gonna get this, you're not getting $150 at market for this. You're just not. There's no way. You're not gonna do it. And so in that regard, it can be really, really great. It can be really great, don't get me wrong. You got to have knowledge on the market. You have to have knowledge on how to save seeds safely so they aren't getting cross-pollinated. You have to find varieties that are high demand, that are still heirloom, and everyone, because I could grow, pink brandywine, for example. I'll finish on this example, pink brandywine. We sell pink brandywine tomatoes. Pink brandywine tomatoes, there's a gentleman that grows them for us down in Ohio, and he sells them to us at around $75 an ounce. At $75 an ounce, that is a very, very profitable, very easy to keep the lights on crop. There's no questions at all. If we sell, if we bring in that seed, we pack it up and we sell it to home gardeners like yourself, we can keep the lights on, our staff paid, food on our table, and everything stays operational. Federally tomato ain't doing that. It's just not doing that. So, you gotta pick varieties that are desirable, that you gotta market for, and you gotta have a tolerance for doing a lot of work for a small end product. So that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. I'm gonna finish up this variety, move on to another one. So as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger. We'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider clicking this one. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you for your viewership, because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. Also, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It's free, and we upload videos every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. We also have vegetable seeds, fertilizer, or tools. If you need any of those, consider visiting MIgardener.com. Links will be in the description box below. We've got you covered. And as always, we'll see you all in the garden. Take care. Bye. Post video, Luke. So I do think it's worth mentioning, I just realized as we turn the camera off, that I cover the topic of wastefulness, because I think that there's going to be a lot of comments around that. I think a lot of people don't really understand that when we let these tomatoes go on the vine, that the fruit is unusable. And also too, once we squeeze the pulp out, once we squeeze the seeds out, a lot of times they're just not able to be used for consumption. And so for a lot of people, that reality is really frustrating. I've had quite a lot of people that have come into the shop and have been quite upset by, they ask the question, but then they're upset by the answer, which I don't think is always the most fair. But the reality of saving these for seed is, when we're saving them on a large scale like that, it's just not possible to use the meat for consumption. It's not safe. A lot of it's just far past prime. So in that same line, I will say this: we do two things. One, when we harvest the tomato seeds, the pulp, oftentimes we will contact a group of people that come and pick them up and feed their chickens with. Crushed tomatoes make excellent chicken feed. People love feeding their chickens. It is awesome. We have another lady that feeds she feeds her pigs the tomato guts and skins and meat and stuff, the leftovers. So she feeds animals. That is absolutely what we do. I cannot say that is the same for everybody. Also, I look at it, second thought in this, I look at it like, sure, this food is technically being wasted, but I look at it like I'm selling seed to grow future food. And so at the cost of one tomato, I'm able to save 10, 15, 20 seeds, which can provide enough seed for 2 or 3 packets worth of seed. And that seed can grow 15, 20 tomato plants, which is as many tomato plants as we have in this row. So in terms of immediate waste versus future waste, I'd like to think that we're actually generating food in a kind of a roundabout way. I'm by no means passing off food waste. I think food waste in this country is at criminal levels. I think it's like completely inexcusable. And I am the last person to think that tomato waste, or wasting food in general, is a good thing. It's just certain things, certain methods and processes kind of require some food to be wasted. And that's because I actually don't see this in my light. I don't see this as food, right? I don't see this as food. And it takes a bit of a desensitization. I think that's the word. It takes a bit of a desensitization to just kind of look at this like it's not food. I look at this like this is seed. This is seed production for all of you. And that's a big distinction there. So yeah, I just wanted to cover that because I know that that comes up all the time. And so this kind of impromptu post-video talk I think it was necessary because I think a lot of that just did not get addressed in the video, and I think it's worth talking about because I, just like you, think that food waste is horrible. So yeah, anyways, thank you all so much. Love you all, and grow bigger.